All right, let's keep it in the SEC. Hey, if you're watching this live, we go live every Wednesday over on YouTube. If you're on X watching, go subscribe on YouTube. It's College Football Addiction. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, hit the subscribe button. We've got good numbers in here. Obviously, a lot of people interested in the Nico situation, but we do talk about more than just the drama of NIL and the portal and everything else. Ole Miss, though, man, I like Lane Kiffin. What are they gonna do this year, Cole?
It's such a weird thing because of, once again, the transfer portal is going to hold the key. So let's go back to 2024. This was a year that they were all in. You ask anybody around the program, you ask anybody around college football, you ask me who thought they were going to win the SEC regular season contest. This was Ole Miss's season. Veteran quarterback Jackson Dart returning, all of his weapons coming on in. They bring in Juice Wells, get better on the defensive line with guys like Princely Uwemaliellen, Walter Nolan, better secondary play. And it just feels like Ole Miss this year with the relaxed schedule is going to punch its ticket to the college football playoff. And Lane Kiffin's going to get the last laugh. And then comes week 5, and a 4th and 6 pass to Berrien Brown leads to the upset of all upsets against Kentucky. Kentucky takes a detour and doesn't return to its form. And then several weeks later, in Death Valley, Ole Miss leads the entire football game until the final play and loses. And now they're sitting at currently 5-2, and they have to win out. And they feel really good, and they get a win over South Carolina, and they dismantle Oklahoma. And Jackson Dart sets records against Arkansas, and all they got to do is get past Florida, and here comes DJ Lagway to go ahead and all debate. They end up finishing the year 9-3, go to the bowl game against Duke that did not have Darian Mensah or Malik Murphy. They end up getting a win. Jackson Dart is the MVP, and now he is off to the NFL, where hopefully he can be a first-round pick. They're losing a lot of talent. Before we talk about the additions, let's talk about the departures. No more Jackson Dart. Multiple stars on the offensive line. Trey Harris is off to the NFL. Caden Prieskorn's off to the NFL. Jordan Watkins is off to the NFL. You're also losing Juice Wells to the NFL. Several running backs are gone. Then you go to the defensive side. No more Walter Nolan. No more Princely Uwemaliellen. No more JJ Pegues, who is an awesome player just because of he can run it inside the red zone. No more Jared Ivey. No more Chris Paul. No more Trey Amos. So they're hitting reset on a lot of different spots in a year where it does feel like Ole Miss, whether you want to admit it or not, can still hold its own and go on a deep run. So what do? What they always do, guys, they go to the transfer portal and continue to land talent. They get superstars like Luke Haas at tight end. They get Patrick Kutas coming on in from Arkansas. Jalen Braxton coming on in from Arkansas. Caleb Odom coming on in at wide receiver from Alabama. They fix their secondary with guys like Antonio Kite from Auburn, with Sage Ryan from LSU. They get better at running back with Keywan Lacey. They add in more wide receivers like Deuce Alexander at Wake Forest, Dejon Stribling from Oklahoma State. They also add in some depth at quarterback, whether it be a Pierce Clarkson from Louisville, or most recently, as of yesterday, they bring in Trinidad Chambliss from Ferris State, the former Harlan Hill runner-up for the D2 Heisman Trophy Award. And they also brought in Harrison Wallace from Penn State and Tavoy Fagan from Clemson. They had also the best recruiting class we had seen underneath Lane Kiffin, landing a four-star defensive back in Mason Dunn. They also landed 5-star wide receiver, and probably the biggest name of all, Caleb Cunningham, who is from Choctaw County. He decides to stay inside the state. Some other names they also brought in, Winston Watkins, the 4-star wide receiver out of Vincent, Florida, Devin Harper, the interior offensive lineman out of Shreveport, Louisiana, and defensive lineman Andrew Maddox. Keys to this season are going to be how quickly can all these players mesh together, as usual, because that is what Lane Kiffin does. He is the portal king. He is somebody that knows exactly how to land the right talent, and talent that's kind of flying under the radar that ends up becoming household names and better off for the NFL. He's done it time and time and time again, and he's probably going to do it again this year because the schedule is very relaxed. Once again, the only game that you have to wonder about was that Wake Forest matchup. Well, that's been replaced with Washington State. Several key games to monitor this year. Naturally, that Week 2 matchup on the road at Kroger Field in Lexington against Kentucky. They're salivating at the lips for an opportunity to go ahead and put belt to ass. They get to welcome in LSU, their third SEC game, on September 27th. Afterwards, they travel to Sanford Stadium on October 18th to take on the Georgia Bulldogs, then travel back-to-back weeks to Oklahoma before coming on home to face off against South Carolina, closing out the year with matchups against Florida and at Mississippi State. What is the big storyline this year? Can this schedule, with a brand new cast of characters, be as advertised. Because if you are going to have great quarterback play from Austin Simmons, we saw him just for a quick cup of coffee, but during that run against Georgia, he was phenomenal. And you also saw that relationship with Caden Lee, who is expected to be the new number one wide receiver. You're going to have a healthy version of what you need in the backfield with multiple running backs, including a guy that I think that a lot of people kind of slept on last year because they barely saw him play because he was coming off a torn ACL, Logan Diggs. I think he's going to have a pretty big time role. You also have Delano Townsend, Bryson Sanders, Patrick Kutis, Jaden Williams, Diego Pounds all back on the offensive line. And yes, you are losing some key defensive players, but Prince Will Uwemanielen, the little brother of Princely Uwemanielen, is coming on in. And Deshaun Wilmot was a phenomenal player already in the SEC. So you add all that together. My question is, how quickly can you gel? Because the schedule is going to give you the benefit of the doubt to where, once again, we may be talking about Lane Kiffin and the Rebels over exceeding expectations and being into that last stage of the running. Maybe not a college football playoff threat, but certainly a team that could punch its ticket in. And how funny would it be, guys? Lane Kiffin in a year where the expectations are lowered is the year where he over exceeds them. He did that in 2023 with Jackson Dart coming off a bad year, the 11-win program, the most in program history. Imagine 2 years after losing all the talent that he thought was going to be a reason why Ole Miss could hoist up a national title, they go on an epic run to the college football playoff.
Considering the transfer portal open today, Cole, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about maybe the greatest name in college football, quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Just an unbelievable name. Congratulations to his parents. What do you think about that grab in the transfer portal? Because it's eye-popping numbers. Granted, I ironically mentioned Ferris State earlier on, but from Ferris State, so that's going to be a huge step up in play. Does that change anything in that quarterback room, at least long-term?
No, I think that's Austin Simmons' job to lose. This is now more so a good situation where we feel like we have three guys that could all be quality QB2s. The thing with Chambliss that I actually really love is that, number one, he's a dude that has proven he can play under pressure. Look at the numbers that he put up last season at Ferris State, leading the team to a national championship. Was it a D2 national championship? Absolutely. But winning is winning, and you always want to have that, especially at the most important position on the field. The other thing that's really important is that he's mobile, and he's not a dude that reminds me a lot of Jaden Daniels. He's more of a dude that reminds me of Jeremiah Masoli. That's really hard to bring down behind the line of scrimmage. He rushed for over 1,000 yards last season. He's got that physical girth in the lower half of his body that will help him get those extra yards after contact. And the thing with Lane Kiffin is he probably did this for one reason. There would be a school that potentially wanted to get him, make him a full-time starter, and he just wanted to go ahead and flip the bird and said, nope, I'm an SEC school, so you're coming to me instead. There will be a design package for him inside the red zone, maybe on fourth down. I expect Trinidad Chambliss to be a part of this offense, but he's not going to be the major X factor of this offense. Real quickly, the X factor player that I'm looking for this year, it's actually a name that you know very well, Tom, Harrison Wallace. I think that with the right quarterback situation down in Oxford, he may be able to hit his stride, live up to the expectations that he couldn't meet in state college. I really like him as a Z receiver on the outside. And then the X factor, how quickly can this team gel together? If it can gel by the time that we get to that LSU matchup, once again, 10-2 is on the table. If it's going to be a mix of transfer portal players and recruits, unfortunately, you're probably going 8-4. But let's be real. Lane Kiffin, after how much success he has had down in Oxford during his first 4+ years, he's earned himself a little bit of wiggle room to have a regressional season.